What's going on, guys? This is MartyrsBrigade99 coming to you once again with another session of Dark Souls PvP. Alright guys, this is part 2 of the two-part series titled Battle of the Uploaders. Alright, now, the first series of matchups featured myself against infamous Amos. Now I'm going to be matched up against good old FourthSequence. Now, to the extent that you guys are not familiar with FourthSequence, he is one of those spell swords dudes, right? And he's pretty good with that Homing Crystal Soul Mask. And actually, you know, kind of after watching a few of his vids, I kind of learned some different techniques with regard to the Homing Crystal Soul Mask. Now, the build that you guys see me using now is still my Faith Mage, but I tweaked it a little bit. I changed it up a little bit. And actually, in making those changes, its soul level is, I think, either 125 or 126. Whereas the Faith Mage in the form that you guys saw against good old infamous Amos, that was a 130. So actually I tweaked it a little bit, made some changes, and actually this is the new and improved Faith Mage. I'm now fast rolling. I still have the same number of attunement slots. I still have, I think, 45 vitality. So I'm doing pretty good with this build, and I like it a lot better. I'm not using a Darkwood Grain Ring. It seems a little more realistic. You know, and now I have my little fast roll. And I think the only difference between the build the way I have it now and the way that you guys saw it in the previous video is that I have less poise. And actually I think I have a poise reduction of maybe 12. So I think this build, the way it's made, has 44 poise, I think. If I'm not mistaken, I think 44 poise. I know it's a little over 40, but it's no more than about 46. I'm not really sure. I don't have the stats, you know, at the top of my head. Alright, so I guess that was intentional. He's kind of like back in the enemy area, so now they're going to go ahead and attack. So we're going to go ahead and keep it in the battle arena, right? Because the last thing we need is interruptions. Alright, and if you guys notice, we're going to go ahead and start over. Now, one good thing about having a Faith Mage is that you can really protect yourself against a wide range of attacks. If you guys notice, I also have the Great Magic Barrier, right? If I were a pure mage, you know, using sorceries only, I wouldn't be able to use it. If I was a pure faith character, I probably wouldn't have the protection of the Homing Crystal Soul Mask so as to be able to cast that miracle. Because one thing about miracles, their casting time is pretty long and it can leave you open to attacks. And I think that the Homing Crystal Soul Mask is a good deterrent. And that's why I like the Faith Mage combination. And I don't use the pure mage or the pure faith character. I think using a combination of both is probably the best way to go. And this is my personal opinion based upon my own playstyle. Now, a lot of you guys are good with your little faith builds. Some of you guys are also equally good with the sorcerer builds. Me, I like the Faith Mage. It's the best option based upon my playstyle. I think it kind of suits me best. Alright. So we're back at it for round 3. Alright, now, for some of you guys that may be kind of new to the game, he is in the Dragon Covenant, and this is why he has the, you know, I guess you want to call it the black appearance. You know, it's kind of a black and white looking color, right? Whereas the Dark Wraiths sport the red, and the Spirits of Vengeance sport the blue. Right? Those in the Dragon Covenant are kind of black and white color. Alright, now if you guys notice, I'm using a different tactic. Now, Once I fire up the Homing Crystal Soul Mask, you guys will notice if you just, and actually I'm going to try to bring it to your attention now, and you just kind of pay a little attention as the matches go on. You know, you guys are going to notice I kind of fire it up and then I kind of unlock and lock, you know, based upon how close my opponent is to me. And actually he does the same thing. You know, he was pretty successful in getting that hit off. You know, because many of you guys know, if you've experimented with it, the Homing Crystal Soul Mask is very difficult to manipulate. Right? And if you're just kind of using it locked on, in a lot of cases, you know, it's pretty easy to dodge. You know, I mean, I've dodged it plenty of times, and, you know, I've kind of used Homing Crystal Soul Mask, you know, kind of locked on, and my opponent has dodged it a whole bunch of times. So, you know, that's one thing I've learned from good old FourthSequence from watching his videos. You know, that, you know, he kind of found a way to kind of tweak it a little bit. And if you guys would notice, I'm a lot more successful with getting hits. Now, I may not get all 5 crystals hit, but it doesn't really matter, right? Because each crystal will inflict, like, I don't know, 1 to 179 damage, which is pretty good. Definitely good, right? 5 is good, but if you can't get all 5, any amount of damage inflicted with at least 1 crystal is good enough. Alright, so he's rocking the Claymore, and I don't know if that is an enchanted Claymore, a regular Claymore, or a Magic plus 10 Claymore. But I'm pretty sure that it's not, okay, obviously it's not a Lightning Claymore or a Chaos Claymore, because, you know, I haven't seen any flames, nor have I seen the lightning. So I'm thinking that either it's enchanted, a plus 10, or a regular Claymore, regular strength Claymore. Now, one of the downsides to my build is if someone were to use Great Magic Barrier, I mean, I might be in trouble. Right? Because in some cases, and actually in most cases, I am using magic weapons. Right? You guys notice I'm using the Butterfly Horn. I'll use the Moonlight Greatsword. I have a wide variety of enchanted weapons, for which, I mean, I almost rarely use plus 10 weapons, but I have them in my inventory. Now, as an alternative, I have selected, I don't know, I think it's like 3 weapons where I use whereas I'll use elementals, right, and it's mainly in one of those situations where I know someone is using the Great Magic Barrier. So I'll go ahead and weapon swap real quick, and I'll pull out the plus 5 lightning or the plus 5 chaos. So I always have those in reserve, because actually I had a series of matches between a guy one time, and, you know, he's like, hey dude, why don't you go ahead and use your Faith Mage? And, you know, initially when he asked it, I'm like, okay, I mean, does he just like to fight the build, or why is he asking about that one in particular? So, you know, I obliged him. Lo and behold, he pulled out the Great Magic Barrier. Now, luckily, I had my B plan, right? This is why you should never, you know, as my grandmother used to say, never put all your eggs in one basket. Right? You never want to get all enchanted weapons. You don't want to get all, you know, plus 10 magic weapons, because there are some guys out there who are faith builds, and they will basically nullify your attacks with that Great Magic Barrier. Alright. So we're back at it once again. Alright, so let's see what we can do. Alright, now, what's going on here? Can't really remember. I have an invader. Well, oh, actually, I think I know what it is. Sometimes when you invade an area, and you're the invader, in this particular area, I don't really know about other areas, but if you go near the enemies for some reason, they'll engage, they'll activate, and they'll stand up and they'll look for the host. Well, I don't think that's in other areas, but I do know, especially in dark root, in the moonlight butterfly forest, that happens sometimes. So, I mean, now that I see what's happening, I remember the way he came. He said, "Hey, dude, before we fight, I mean, you're gonna have some stone giants pursuing you." All right, so that was what the pause was for. Now, if you guys notice, my little high-speed Great Magic Barrier is really proven to be successful against his build. Now, he's a pure mage build. If you notice, you know, he's kind of using all of the sorceries. A little later on, he'll use the hidden body, which proves to be a pretty good defense against that Homing Crystal Soul Mass. In the event that you guys are kind of new to the game, if you use either the Fog Ring or the hidden body, for some reason, that Homing Crystal Soul Mass is hesitant to home in, right? The only time it'll home in is when you are extremely close and locked on to your opponent, which is a pretty good defense. It also works against pursuers, right? So for a lot of you guys, you know, if you're a mage, or, you know, perhaps if you have, you know, the minimum of 18 in intelligence to be able to use the hidden body, that's a good defense against, you know, Homing Crystal Soul Mass and the pursuers, right? Because if you notice, I'm not even worried about the damage. I'm just kind of running straight at him at that point, because I know that the Great Magic Barrier pretty much nullifies his magic attacks. Now, it doesn't nullify it 100%, only 90% of the attacks, which is good enough. Right, it's good enough for me. I'll take 50 to 100 damage. I'll take that any day, as opposed to taking 1,000 damage, right? Because anyone who's been hit with, you know, 5 of those crystals of the Homing Crystal Soul Mass, you know that, I mean, that thing can take upwards of 1,000 damage easily, right? And that's only with the Logan's Catalyst and the Crown of Dusk. We're not even, you know, we're not even talking about when you're using the what's that thing called? 10 crystallization catalyst, you know, the crystal one that you get from Logan. We're not talking about that, nor are we talking about using the Bellowing Crest Ring. I mean, you use that combination, I can almost guarantee you'll kill almost anyone with all 5 beads. Right, so that Great Magic Barrier definitely comes in handy. And actually, I get hit not only with the crystals, but also with the Claymore running attack. Alright, so we're back at it with a unfortunate loss. But it's all good. It's definitely all good. Now you guys notice, the Homing Crystal Soul Mass is not even firing up. Why is that? Because he's using the hidden body, which is a really good defense. Because if you guys notice, there were several. See, look, it's not even firing. Check that out. It's not even homing in. So that's a great defense. Just like I was saying earlier, not only with the Homing Crystal Soul Mass, but also with pursuers. And actually, I'm trying to get him caught up. That actually, his hidden body just wore out. So that was a good thing for me. And I think he starts to use that hidden body from now on, which is good. Right, because once he uses that, you know, either I can wait until the hidden body wears off, or I'll have to come up with a different tactic. Alright. So I'll go ahead, fire up the Great Magic Barrier, and he's firing up his high-speed hidden body. Guys, notice that? It's not really doing anything. I mean, some of those crystals they fired off, but not, you know, not as quickly as it should have. And for the most part, I pretty much had to be dead on them in order for them to fire, you know, when they did. Which is another demonstration of how well the hidden body or the fog ring is a good defense against Homing Crystal Soul Mass or pursuers. Alright, so enough about that. Now, another thing that he's doing well is he's using the crest shield, right? Because for any of you guys who have used the grass shield, you guys would know that grass shield is horrible against sorceries. I mean, it will eat through your shield. I've had it happen to me on a number of occasions. You know, I'll have someone, they may fire up the homing crystal soul mass or pursuers, or maybe, you know, a crystal soul spear, and it pretty much just eats right through the shield. So luckily he's using the crest shield, which nullifies 80% of magic attacks. Well, when you block the attack, obviously. Alright. And actually, what I tried to do was deflect that homing crystal soul mass. But, you know, I didn't hit the wrath of the gods in time. I was a little too late for that. Alright, so we're back at it again. Dragon Covenant. And I've never been in the Dragon Covenant. I was kind of thinking about experimenting with the Dragon Covenant. You know, basically using a build in pure dragon form, using only dragon weapons, right? Including the Drake Sword, but I don't know, I still might do it. We'll see. I'm just kind of experimenting with a lot of different builds nowadays. Alright, now, another tactic that I use with that Soul Spear and Crystal Soul Spear, and a lot of cases, you know, and actually I won't say a lot, in some cases I'll fire it from a distance. In other cases, I'll wait till my opponent is kind of dead up on me, and a lot of times, you know, if you're lucky, you'll kind of hit some headshots. Like I did right there. Right? Alright, so, you know, just to kind of switch up the tactics with my Faith Mage, I'm going to go ahead and use Replenishment. And like I said before, the Faith Mage is a good option. Mainly because, you know, in the event that you're with someone and they're saying, holy crap, I'm not going to let that guy fire that off. Well, guess what, dude? I have Homing Crystal Soul Mass as a good defense. So you can run up on me if you want, right? Because one thing, your opponent doesn't know if you have them locked on or locked off. So in some cases, they may run up on you, and if, you know, it's locked on, they may be able to dodge the crystals, but if it's locked off, they may be in for a surprise where they're trying to sneak in for a BS while you're firing up, you know, whatever miracle you may be using. You know, may it be regeneration that can replenish your vitality. I think it's like 600 health points per minute. I think that's what it is, because if I'm correct, replenishment replenishes 10 vitality per second. I think that's what it is, and after 60 seconds, obviously, it's 600 health points. Alright, I'll stand corrected if I'm wrong. Alright, so this is almost the end of it, but not quite. I hope you guys have been enjoying the series so far. Alright, Battle of the Uploaders. And if any of you other uploaders out there, you know, you kind of want to have a shot at the brigade, I mean, you know, we can kind of PvP. You know, like I've said before, you know, I'm not one of the best, but, you know, I think it's a good thing, especially for a lot of these guys that may have multiple subscriptions, and they're like, you know what, you know, I kind of like, you know, the brigade, I kind of like some of these other guys, I would like to see how they will look matched up against each other. Well, I mean, hey, and if you uploaders, you know, you kind of want to have a series of matches, go ahead, you know, kind of send a comment or a video. In most cases, I kind of read the comments, you know, or if you don't do that, you can go ahead and send me a message on PSN, MartyrsBrigade99. In most cases, you know, I try to reply to messages. Now, sometimes I don't always get the messages for whatever reason, but in most cases, I try to reply. Alright, so I was lucky to get off with a Soul Spear in that instance. Alright. Back to the dragon. Now, I'd like to give you guys an invite to go ahead and check out FourthSequence's channel. It's pretty good. And like I've said in the past, I mean, I've definitely learned some things by checking out his channel. For one thing, I've learned, you know, kind of how to manipulate that homing crystal soul mass. And actually, that's one thing about me. You know, I know some guys who have their channels and all that. You know, they kind of don't really check out any other channel because they kind of want to hang up about, well, I have my own, and, you know, that's kind of it. Me, you know, me personally, I like Dark Souls, period. Right? I mean, it doesn't matter if it's my own material or somebody else's. I just like good material. Right? I like commentaries. I love listening to people's views and opinions, you know, especially the ones that differ from mine, because you get to hear, you know, the logic behind what they're saying. You know, especially when they kind of give an explanation, you can kind of say, even if you agree, you can say, well, okay, I can kind of understand the point that he's trying to make. And you can leave it at that. So best believe I check out, you know, a wide range of channels, right? I'm even subscribed to, you know, several Dark Souls uploaders because I like to hear various perspectives on things. All right. See, I'm getting hit by the hidden crystals, and I hate when that happens. And I think good old FourthSequence said it happened to him on a couple of occasions. And actually, I've noticed that in the past, you know. Perhaps I may invade someone's world and someone is sitting there, and when you look at them, you know, you don't see any homing crystal soul mass. You don't see anything fired up, and all of a sudden, you're just receiving like 900 damage. You know, I don't know if that's a glitch. If it is, I hope it fixes it, you know. But it is what it is. I mean, it's a game. It's going to be imperfect. So you just kind of have to, you know, adapt and overcome, as they say. Alright guys, well, this is pretty much the last match of the two-part series that I like to title Battle of the Uploaders. I hope you guys enjoyed it. So stand by for next time. Martyrs Brigade is out.